I love when I wake up in the morning and there's a brand new update for the DJI Mavic 3 Pro with a ton of great new features. And that's what we're talking about today. Okay, so I'm on my way up to the top where I'm gonna fly, but I came across this thing. What the hell is that? And it's coming closer. What are you? Someone leave a comment down below if they know what the hell that thing is. All right, so we are rocking version 01.00.0700. I don't know why they can't come up with simpler names. Why does it have to be so complicated? So let's talk about this. So it clocks in at 402 megabytes, so it's a pretty big one. Now, something to be aware of is to make sure you update the app as well so that these features will be unlocked. Now, I only have the regular version, not the Cine, so I'm gonna go ahead and go over the features for the non-Cine drone, but I'll go ahead and throw the release notes up on the screen right now. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the upgrades to the Tele camera, starting with the fact that we now have raw images and manual control over the camera settings, which include single shot, auto exposure bracketed, which is multiple exposures for HDR images, as well as timed shooting and burst shots. So let's play with some of those now. So we're gonna go over here to photo. So if I switch over to our 7x zoom here, which is a quick switch over to the Tele camera, which is a new feature, you can see that if I go down here, I now have RAW. I have JPEG and I have JPEG plus RAW. I only shoot in RAW. I don't know why you need JPEGs. 4:3 aspect ratio will also give you a better, higher resolution photo compared to 16:9. So we have manual controls here. I'm gonna take everything out of auto. I'm going to bump up the ISO because I've got an ND filter on there. So I'm gonna take it to probably 1/60th of a shot. Now I want to do auto exposure bracketed. I'm gonna do 3 exposures and I'm gonna move the drone around a bit just because I wanna snap a few photos here. And I have to admit that Tele camera now looks pretty sharp. I can't wait to see what these actually look like edited, but I wanna get this composition right here with downtown in the background. Okay, so for this next one, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of a pano here. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3 images here, 1, 2, 3 images here, and 1, 2, 3 images here. Okay, continuing on with the Tele camera is we now have the option to do manual controls with this. So we can change our shutter speed, our ISO. Since I have the ND filter on there, I'll probably keep it around, I think, a 200 ISO. And since I'm filming in 24 frames per second, or I guess technically 25 frames per second, which you can change right here, my shutter speed needs to be 1/150th. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some shots here. Now, one thing to note before I take some footage here is we still have our color profile as normal. So I find it interesting that normal is here. Maybe there's going to be a D-log in the future, which would be absolutely awesome. But let's go ahead and snag some footage with this 7x zoom. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about as I bring the drone closer here is we now have D-log color profiling for master shots. Now, me personally, I never really use master shots because you have all this nice D-log footage that you can color grade, and then you throw a master shot on there in a normal color, and it just didn't match up. So I never really used it in my portfolio, in my videos that I would make. But now that we have D-log as a possibility for the master shots, let's go ahead and play with that and see what we can get. So we're gonna go up here, we're gonna go down here to master shots. It's gonna give me a little tutorial on how all of this works. So if we go down here, we were in auto, we're gonna go down here to pro, I'm gonna go to 4K. We can still only do 4K 30 frames per second, but we now have our D-Log option here as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and change these all from auto to what I want the settings to be. Since I'm back in 24 frames per second or 25, I'm gonna change that to 1/150th, my shutter speed, and bring my aperture up to maybe 8. So let's play with some master shots here. So I'm just gonna draw a square around the observatory because that is my subject. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the improvements that were made to the regular main camera. So the Hasselblad lens is what DJI says. So let's get a little bit closer here. Now, if we notice on the screen, we have 1x and we have 7. If we tap on 7, it takes us into our tele camera. But if we tap on the 1, we're still in our normal Hasselblad lens, and this is doing a 2x zoom. But we now have a 3x zoom as well. Now this is a digital zoom, so you do lose a little bit of quality, but since we're filming at 5.1K, the footage is still gonna look pretty good. The second feature that they also improved upon with the Hasselblad lens is if we go down here to our color profiles, we also now have an HLG color format. I don't know if I will personally use this just because I like to have D-Log. I like to take full advantage of all the colors and everything. But HLG is maybe a simpler way to color grade the footage. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take some footage in a normal color profile, a D-Log color profile, and an HLG profile, so that way you guys can see the differences between the three of them. All right, so we also have slow-mo capabilities. Now we have 1080 at 200 frames per second. So if we go to video and we go down here to slow-mo, and we go over here, we have 1080. Now we do have it at 200 frames per second, but just so you know, there is a little bit of a crop. I personally don't know when I would actually use 200 frames per second on a drone. Maybe if I was filming something fast like a boat or a car, but just be aware of that too. So let's talk about some of the honorable mentions. So DJI claims that they have improved the auto-focusing system of the telephoto camera, which is definitely something I noticed as I was out here filming. And as you can see on the screen right now, the camera does not lose focus right on the top of the observatory. Okay, so the next thing that DJI mentioned was that they came out with a new LUT that takes your footage from D-Log to Rec 709, but they added a vivid version of the LUT. So what I'll do is I'll take some footage here, and I'll show you the regular D-Log to Rec 709, and then I'll also show you the D-Log to Rec 709 Vivid without any color grading, so you guys can see the difference for that. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. That's all I have for you. These are the features that I went over. There are a ton of other features, but they were listed in the video early on with the release notes. So hopefully you guys like this video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.